In the past 5 years, we have seen an increased offering of GMT watches in the market at several price segments. Of this great surge, there was a smaller selection of watches that have emerged as definitive points of value. One of those being the MIDO Ocean Star GMT, an underrated sports watch from Switzerland that offers true GMT functionality for under $1,400. Let's jump in. And before we jump into this video, if you like what you're seeing here today as I'm going through all this with the MIDO Ocean Star, definitely check out the different ones that we have for sale on TeddyBaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of MIDO. We have the blue version, the black dial version, as well as this new variant with this Pepsi color scheme that I think is probably my favorite so far. It was just released this month, so definitely go check it out on TeddyBaldassarre.com. If you buy it on the bracelet, also comes with an additional NATO strap with your purchase. So if you've been a follower of this channel for some time, you've probably heard of the brand MIDO. But just so we're all on the same page, the brand was founded in Biel, Switzerland in 1918. In its early years, MIDO was known for its multi-fort, a mechanical watch, being among the first to offer shock, water, and magnetic resistance. And by 1944, MIDO followed innovators in water resistance like Rolex and Omega by beginning to introduce the Ocean Star. At the time, a dressy but capable water-resistant timepiece with a unibody case construction and the brand's own proprietary water-resistant Aquadura crown. Though it was not until the 1960s when MIDO established their reputation for producing dive watches with the release of the more obscure cult classic 5907 reference, recognized for its impressive 300 meters of water resistance and striking rainbow color code decompression scale dial. The success of these early aquatic models ultimately paved the way for more divers, with their diving collection taking on the Ocean Star name, now adapting to include a wide range of different styles, including the 2020 release of the MIDO Ocean Star GMT. The collection has seen a couple of previous iterations, all being defined by its true GMT movement. More on that shortly, but the version we're going to be looking at here is this new 2022 Pepsi version, showcasing this blue and red colorway. Now, when it comes to the single strongest attribute of this watch, it has to come from the true GMT movement on the inside, with this one coming from ETA, perks of being positioned within the swatch group. Before getting too deep into this movement in particular, let's again quickly define the difference between the more common office or caller GMT with the true GMTs or traveler GMT. In short, with an office GMT, moving the crown to the second position allows an isolated function of only the additional 24-hour time hand, not your local hour hand, as is the case with a true or traveler's GMT, which is valued more for its ability to set the time when changing time zones without stopping the balance and adding additional steps for setting all of the hands in their appropriate spot. However, the problem here comes with the typical price jump. For example, there are only a short list of brands that offer this function near this price, and then there's a huge jump up to $3,000 with the new Longines Spirit Zulu time. And then from there, Tudor's GMT offerings of the Black Bay GMT and Pro coming closer to $4,000. Therefore, making the Ocean Star GMT one of the anomalies in the GMT market. Now, the movement housed beneath the screw-down case back that's featuring a graphical display of the world's time zones to aid in setting the watch is known specifically as the ETA C07.661. This movement, along with MIDO's caliber 80s, are modified ETA calibers adjusted to include a GMT module, adding roughly 0.64 millimeters to the movement thickness. This collection of Powermatic calibers is seen across the Swatch Group's brands and achieves its extended power reserve of 80 hours by slowing the beat rate from the standard 4 Hz to 3 Hz by way of additional modifications to the barrel and gear train. Already in use in hundreds of thousands of watches, these Powermatic calibers have amassed a solid reputation for really what is hard to beat for the price. In terms of general operation here, you're looking at 21,600 vibrations per hour, 3 Hz. It does feature hacking and hand winding, hacking stopping the second hand when you pull the crown to the farthest position, and a power reserve of 80 hours. As a note, these movements are regulated at the factory and are typically coming in with impressive daily rates of accuracy. Speaking anecdotally though, we did test this example that we reviewed here. When testing across 5 positions, -4 to -1 second per day. Moving back to the front of the watch, we have a flat sapphire crystal on the front with AR coating on both sides, making it very easy easy for this new striking dial to come to the forefront with a matte blue central surface and charming pops of red throughout. Starting at the dial's periphery, we have a fixed chapter ring with printed 24-hour scale with even numbered hours printed in white with linear markings printed to indicate the odd hours. The top half of the chapter ring is in blue to match the dial, with the daytime hours on the bottom executed in striking red. Applied rectangular and square hour markers are set within a simple minute track, which tracks the time along with the skeletonized baton hands and red arrow GMT hand. Stark white dial text pops with impressive contrast over the blue surface beneath, with a MIDO logo at 12 o'clock and the Ocean Star name resting just above the 6 o'clock position, with a white date wheel within view at the simple aperture at 3 o'clock. Thickly applied to both the indices and the hands, the lume is also very solid for the price, glowing bright and consistently green across each element, providing additional legibility in poor lighting conditions. Speaking to the conversation on the wearability presented by the Ocean Star GMT, we have a larger dimension set of 44 millimeters in diameter at the bezel, 49.8 millimeter lug to lug, and a 13.2 millimeter thickness. Given the proportionally shorter lug to lug compared to the case width, the watch to me wears more like a 42.5 to 43 millimeter diameter, though it's probably not the best option for anyone with a slender wrist. The case shape of the modern Ocean Star collection is reminiscent of icons like Rolex and the Submariner, with its sloping lugs and a slender bevel where the case top meets the sides, with the majority of the case surfaces featuring linear brushing with some hits of polishing. The signed screw-down crown offers 200 meters of water resistance and is located within the safety of substantial crown guards, which feature their own facets, and the 120-click unidirectional dies bezel is complete with a ceramic insert. A nice inclusion at this price point, although the time-elapsed diver format is somewhat of a strange choice for a GMT. Set between 22 millimeter lugs, the Ocean Star GMT comes complete with one of the best bracelets that you're going to likely find for the price, with a quick release system and a general 3-link oyster style with brushed outer links and polished center links, showcasing a polished bevel along the bracelet edge. The 20 millimeter clasp though is very well done. This is probably the star of the show when it comes to the bracelet. It has a push button release integrated extension system that replaces the traditional micro adjustment points while offering 2 centimeters of fine adjustment, also coming with 2 half links, so you're gonna have no issue when it comes to getting a perfect fit here. And I would say this Ocean Star bracelet is probably maybe one of the bracelets that sets the standard for what I would think a really well done $1,000 to $1,500 bracelet should feel like. This version also comes with an additional red, white, and blue NATO strap for those summer days. If you get it on the bracelet, it will come with that strap. So now to unpack looking at this MIDO Ocean Star GMT and just some things to consider. So I'm a big fan of MIDO and what they're offering up. I think they're a very underrated brand. People, I think, just lump them in with some of the entry-level offerings from the Swatch Group, but I actually think that in a lot of cases, they're almost a step up from things like a Hamilton and Tissot with some of their watches. They're really well constructed. Now, a few things on the negative side to consider for this watch. One is just going to be the size. I think this is going to potentially size some people out, probably 42.5 to 43 millimeters in terms of actual wear on the wrist. It does have the benefit of the shorter lug to lug distance, which is nice. Other point will be the polished center links. Those will show their scratches, so not going to be maybe as robust as if this thing was completely brushed. And one final point when it comes to the design that some people might not like is the bezel. It does use this time-elapsed bezel rather than a 24-hour bezel, which I think when you're utilizing a GMT might be more useful for some people out there, but you know, not the biggest deal, just more of a design aesthetic. This is kind of leaning into that dive watch DNA of the Ocean Star collection. But now when talking about this watch and the pros, I think it comes to 2 primary areas that are the leading reason why this watch is such an anomaly. One is going to be the bracelet. The bracelet is simply fantastic. I think the best thing about it though has to be the clasp. You have 2 centimeters of micro adjustment. It's also not gonna be extra large on the back side of your wrist, which I really like. A lot of micro adjustment systems come with making some compromises in terms of more of that clunky type of wearing experience, which this one doesn't have. It's more refined and almost tapered down. And of course, the main thing is just going to be the outlier that this watch is when it comes to GMT movements. This is a true GMT, so if you want that isolated hour function, there's only a few other places in the market that are even close to this. Seiko is right there with their sharp edge GMTs, and then you have some other offerings from Certina and Tissot, but I think though by far this is the best offering under $1,500 for a true GMT from the Swatch Group, easily. You do have the Spirit Zulu time at $3,000, but that's double the price, so I think that might just throw some people off. And one other thing I will say about just the wearability of this one, whenever you're looking at GMT, true GMT movements, because they have to add some thickness to the movements typically to have that ability, you're going to see many of those watches being thick. This is why so many people are hard on a watch like the Tudor Black Bay GMT or the Tudor Black Bay Pro. It was 14.6 millimeters thick. This watch is 13.2 millimeters thick and coming in a price range at $1,400. And I think that goes to show the value of this watch. If you look at the market in this $1,000 to $2,000 range, you're gonna see many watches powered by like SOPROD movements, as well as SW330s, the 2893-2. If you want a true GMT, this is probably one of the best values on the market without question. All right guys, well that is my take on the MIDO Ocean Star GMT. What do you think of this one? Do you like it? Do you not like it? If you like what you saw here today, also definitely check it out on teddybaldassarre.com. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe as well. Only 30% of you that watch actually are subscribed, so it doesn't cost you anything. Definitely subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate that as well. But thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all next time.